Okay, so everything happens between the poles. For example, we are told in mainstream science that the sun is hot and the furthest planet away from the sun, these being the visible planets with your naked eye, Saturn is the coldest. And we are told that the Earth, we are positioned at the Goldilocks zone, which means we're not too close to the sun where it's hot and we're not too far from the sun where it's cold. We are at just the right temperature where it's not too cold or too hot, and we actually have liquid water instead of gas or ice. Well, same thing goes for the electromagnetic spectrum, where we can only see a small portion of that spectrum. Infrared is radio waves, which are invisible. Ultraviolet is gamma waves, which are invisible. Visible light is a small portion of the electromagnetic spectrum, which includes red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, and violet, which you see in a rainbow. And yes, rainbows are taller in the north hemisphere and shorter in the south hemisphere, because the Earth is the plane of inertia inside of its own electromagnetic field, Torus field. Redshift, blue shift. Redshift is the Torus field, right turning, masculine. Blue shift is the hyperbola, left turning, feminine. This is negative and positive, positron and negatron, or proton and electron. The Earth would be the neutron. It is neutral. That's why nature is green, because it's the neutral zone between the two mid pressures and high pressures. Some people call it a north and south pole, but what is a pole? Ken Wheeler says there is no north and south pole. There's only the inverse of counterspace. What is counterspace? It's the counterspatial disk, the block wall, the plane of inertia. It doesn't take up any space. It's actually infinitely thin. If you were to take an atom and shrink it down to its nucleus, it would be infinitely thin. That's called the plane of inertia, the neutron, or the neutral zone between the north and south pole, or between the north and south polar vortex. It's basically a force vector. It's an ether perturbation or a disturbance. Notice the word ter is in disturbance because it's turning. Saturn, Jupiter, it's all to do with turning and rotating fields of magnetism. This is 90 degrees north and this is 90 degrees south. Between the two is the equator at 0 degrees. We have 3 tropics, actually 4, but 2 of them are on the equator, which is Aries and Libra. Cancer is 23.4 degrees north and Capricorn is 23.4 degrees south. So these are the 3 tropics which give us our 4 seasons. Spring is on the equator, summer is on the Tropic of Cancer, fall is on the equator, and winter is on the Tropic of Capricorn, which you can see here. You see, not only is the Earth not too close or too far from the sun, but even humans on the Earth cannot survive at extremely cold temperatures like the North Pole and supposed South Pole. We are meant to live in the warmer areas, not necessarily between the tropics, but near the tropics. In fact, Admiral Byrd flew 55 degrees south and said there wasn't enough wood to make a toothpick. But when he went 85 degrees north, he said there was so much life. Well, again, if the Earth was a ball, how can you have different height rainbows? And if it was a ball, how can 55 degrees south not have any life? No plants, no animals, no trees. But 85 degrees north is the opposite. There's so much life, so much plants, so many trees, according to Admiral Byrd on his expedition to the North and South Pole. And he said there was more land beyond the south and a bunch of life in the north. Well, the Goldilocks zone is actually between the 2 poles, which is the south wall. South is out and north is in. See, in Norse mythology, they call it Asgard, which is above, Midgard below that, and Hell is beneath all of it. Well, if you look at the Earth as a mountain enclosed by an ice wall, Asgard is the center and Hell is the outermost, because south is out, north is in, and Midgard is the middle garden where the tropics happen. This is where the jungles are. This is where life is most prominent or dominant at, is between the poles, between the north and south. That's where the visible light spectrum is. That's where we live. And that's where the most vegetation is. See, as above, so below, as within, so without. So you can look at it in 2 different ways. Midgard is the middle point between the 2 north poles, north and south, which is in and out. Or Midgard is the midpoint between the north polar vortex and south polar vortex. And this explains why Saturn has flat rings at its plane of inertia. Because we were told in school as children that Jupiter and Saturn are gas giants. So the only solid part with matter is the rings made of asteroids, which are not perfect spheres either. They're nugget shapes. That's the plane of inertia. It's the block wall that separates the north and south vortex. As you can see in an apple, there's a dip at the top and bottom. Saturn and Jupiter have dips at the top and bottom, perpetual vortexes, never-ending tornadoes at the north and south pole, just like an apple. So no, Saturn and Jupiter are not spheres in space. They're apple shapes with the only material part or matter or solid part or having the most density at the plane of inertia. The most solid part of an apple is at the midsection. You will find a star of seeds. So yes, Earth is the plane of inertia inside of its own toroidal field. In this atom, they say New York is the Big Apple. Well, the entire world is the Big Apple. This is all Atlantis. Atlantis is not a point on the Earth. It's the entire Earth, and we are surrounded by the Atlantic Ocean, which is the ocean of Atlantis. Atlas meaning the world. This is Mount Atlas, who produced the volcano or mountain that produced the island called Pangaea, which split into many, as we're all told today. This is Mount Atlas, which produced the Atlas, the world. And this is the Atlantic Ocean. Atlas holds up the celestial sphere, which is the dome, because that's where the Earth touches the dome. And he has 7 children. That's the 7 visible planets that you can see with your naked eyes that are rotating above the Earth along with the dome, circling that North Pole. So here I have the red shift above, blue shift below to show you that right turning doesn't just come out. Magnetism means to move. This is force in motion. High pressure seeks low pressure. So an atom is just pressure mediation. Everything is atoms. Everything is pressure mediation. Mid pressure wants to come out of the top back to the center. High pressure wants to come out of the bottom into the top and out of the top back into the bottom. When energy diverges out from the center point, it's not just going straight up. It's actually right turning as it diverges. That's called centrifugal divergence. And the energy doesn't just go straight in, it's left turning as it goes in, and it's called centripetal convergence. So this is left turning as it goes in, and this is right turning as it goes out. So here's the torus field. This is actually a human with his head up here, with his arms here, his legs here, and his head up here. You have a hole above, which is your mouth, and a hole below. Food goes in and comes out the other end. It's called a torus, and it's also your torso. On the top of your torso, you have your throat, which is thoroat, which is tor. And at the bottom of your spine, you have the root chakra. Root also spells rot, which is red in German, and backwards it spells tor, which is tor, the torus field. So you have red shift, blue shift.
Root chakra's red, throat chakra's blue.
Red shift is Ra, the sun, which expands, and it's right turning as it comes out. Blue shift is Isis, the moon, and it contracts. This is Isis, Ra, and El. Together, Isis and Ra create El, which is the circle. The circle is made when these two come together, and it creates the entirety, the whole. Santos said that the word circle comes from cirkel, which is the circumference of El. Genesis is Isis, which is the moon. The radius is Ra, which is the sun. The circle is the circumference of El. Isis, Ra, and El, Israel. It's a bubble, which is the hyperbola that fits perfectly inside of a donut. See, the hyperbola is this hourglass that fits perfectly inside of the torus. You even see it when an atom bomb goes off. You see the tree or mushroom cloud, which is the hyperbola, or the árbol, which means tree in Spanish. And here is a donut cloud, or a torus. This is the sink and bubble, ring and rod, zeros and ones, torus and hyperbola. This is an atom, this is an atom bomb. And that's why you have the symbol for phi, a hyperbola inside of a torus, because that's what atoms are. Your magnetic field doesn't just go out of the top into the bottom. It swirls out of the top and swirls into the bottom. So as it curves, it also curls. So the golden ratio, it spirals into itself. Anything physical is dealing with the phi cycle. Thank you, Santos. When you look at any galaxy, you have what's called a galactic disk. All matter accumulates at the galactic disk as it's being sucked to the center, but there is no such thing as just a black hole. Every black hole is also a white hole because the matter in the universe is being produced at the center of these galaxies. It's called a galactic or astrophysical jet stream. Millions of tons of hydrogen is being produced and emitted from the north and south pole of every galaxy. The matter then comes back to the plane and gets sucked back in and it recycles itself. This is a snake eating its tail. It's also the infinity. Matter is always being produced. A black hole is always destroying and regenerating its own matter. All is atum. Everything is perpetual. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. The reason the torus is visible in the middle of this explosion between the top and bottom of this mushroom cloud, the torus appears. The Greek goddess Ananke means necessitatively, which means there is no other way. This is the only way. Chronos, Father Time, his name means time. Time and necessity. Over time, after you eat something and it goes down your throat, as time goes by, necessitatively, whatever goes in you is going to come out of you. Things don't just disappear into your body. You don't have a black hole at the center of your stomach. Whatever goes in comes out. Whether it's energy-wise or physically, things will come out of you. Whether it's solid or liquid, you are a juicing machine, and anything that comes into you will come out of you. So the golden ratio 1.618, nature uses this number necessitatively because there's no other ratio or proportion system that nature can use to distribute its energy efficiently and properly. It's called perfect proportionality and proper distribution of energy. That's why you don't actually grow upward from the ground. You actually grow downward and upward from your navel, which is your belly button, which is about 3.5 feet above the ground if you're 6 feet tall, because the midpoint exactly would be your groin. Just above that is your belly button. So you're actually growing outward from your belly button, just like a tree grows outward from its seed. It doesn't just grow upwards. A tree is growing upwards and downwards at the same time. No branches of a tree can reach heaven unless its roots reach down to earth. Thank you, Carl Jung.